Dear friends, this is Bishop Daniel Thomas of the Diocese of Toledo. Please join me now in praying together our diocesan prayer. Heavenly Father, with the redeeming cross of Christ Jesus, your Son, and the gifts of your Holy Spirit, renew and strengthen us, so that by our prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, we may foster holy disciples, holy families, and holy vocations, so as to become a more holy diocese of Toledo. We turn to Our Lady, Queen of the Most Holy Rosary, for her intercession and never-failing prayers. Through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Annunciation Radio presents Faith Alive, highlighting the many ways Catholic Charities here in the Diocese of Toledo provides love and support for those in need. And now, your host for Faith Alive, Executive Director of Catholic Charities in Toledo, Rodney Schuster.
Hello and welcome to Faith Alive, the program that shares how the love of Jesus Christ is provided through the ministries of Catholic Charities throughout the Diocese of Toledo. I'm your host, Rodney Schuster, Executive Director of Catholic Charities. And on today's program, we're going to talk about Helping Hands of St. Louis. And first of all, we're going to reflect on the Christmas season that preceded us a few months or a month ago, and share some of the blessings both in those who came forward to help and those who received. But we're also going to dig in a little bit to our clothing center, as well as talk about our meal program as well. Our guest for this segment, we've got Sue Shrewsbury, who's no stranger to this show. She is a veteran and heads up Helping Hands. Sue, welcome to Faith Alive.
Thanks for having me again.
And alongside her is Carolyn Schnapp, who heads up our clothing center. Carolyn, welcome to Faith Alive.
Well, thanks for having me.
Glad to have you guys. So let's first off start on the Christmas season. It's a crazy, crazy time, and both of you and the entire team there are in the midst of chaos. And people say, "Oh, chaos." No, it's a beautiful, loving chaos, and that so many people are coming forward because they want to help, because they want to give items, because they want to support the work that we're doing. That's beautiful. But, we're still serving meals. We're still providing clothes. We're still, have the food pantry going. So, Sue, I'll start with you. How was this past Christmas season? How was it different? I mean, with COVID, how was it different from years past? And now that you've had just a little time to kind of exhale, how are you doing?
We're finally getting things cleaned up. It's really hard when you're trying to put things away and then 10 more things come in right behind it. So we're actually able to put things away, kind of assess what we've got and kind of go forward from there. But the season itself was beautiful. Just the outpour of donations that came in. People who wanted to volunteer, it always is such a blessing every year.
And I know you had a number of events, so maybe just share a little bit about some of those events that occurred, and just maybe if you can reflect on any stories of people that received help, either with the Christmas meal or the toys or anything that you want to share.
Yeah, we served our meal, which was on the Tuesday before Christmas. We gave out 100 food baskets on the Monday before Christmas. And then on the Wednesday before Christmas, we had our kids party where we had about 100 kids signed up, and about 91 of them actually showed up. So that was a lot of kids and very happy smiles. They got to visit Santa, get a picture with Santa. All of them got a new coat that we had sizes for, which I think most of them were able to do that. They got to go down to the Santa's workshop, pick out some presents for Mom and Dad, decorate some cookies, and then they got a bag of or a meal to go for the family, and then they got gifts for the kids.
Awesome. And our other guest is Carolyn Schnapp, who heads up our clothing center. So, Carolyn, what was it like for you at this holiday, Christmas season, in the way of donations and people needing clothes? How was it for you?
I can tell you we probably had 5 tons coming in in that time. And at the same time, I figured, well, I'm going to do something special and have like a Christmas shop. And I put out the word. I says, I want it to look like Bronner's. They didn't fail me. It was absolutely fantastic.
Wonderful. You're listening to Faith Alive, and our guests are Carolyn Schnapp and Sue Shrewsbury from Helping Hands. So, Carolyn, you got through the holidays, and one of the things that we always say is so many people step forward during the holidays, and we're thankful and blessed by it. But our help or our needs don't go away. Our needs continue. So, I wonder if you can share a little bit about the clothing center and how people can get involved and help, and when people can drop things off, how they can drop things off, what needs that you have in the way of volunteers, etc.
Right now, we have about 20 volunteers, and I will tell you they are overwhelmed. We need people to come in to sort. We need people to come in to do customer service. We need people that can check people in, because we do it through a computer, so I need somebody that's a little computer literate to get them checked in. And we have increased 200 people per month since September.
Wow.
And we can't keep up. And
Okay.
I don't like saying, no, we can't take any donations, but when you look in the lobby and you cannot see the big window there because it is just piled right up against it. So what we need is people, if you want to come in and volunteer, the easiest thing to do is just come in, say, hey, I'm here to volunteer. I will put you to work right away.
So you're listening to Faith Alive, and our guests are Carolyn Schnapp, who heads up the Clothing Center at Helping Hands of St. Louis, and Sue Shrewsbury, our director there. And you just heard Carolyn say, we are overwhelmed in the way of needing volunteers to help, first of all, sort all the clothes that we receive and get them on racks, and then distribute all the clothes. And she shared that we're helping 200 more people a month since September. So the needs have increased dramatically. She mentioned you can just come down to Helping Hands, but there's also a text-to-volunteer number if you're interested, which is 419-318-7086. That's 419-318-7086, and just share that you want to help at the Clothing Center at Helping Hands or at Helping Hands, and Byron Wynn will get back to you. You can also go to our website, CatholicCharitiesNWO.org, and there's a button there for volunteers. So please, if you want to help, we could really use it. And Carolyn, what days of the week are you most in need of help? What times of the day, so people can kind of get a sense of, if they're available and they're willing, that they would need to be present.
Okay, most of our volunteers come in between 9 and noon every day of the week.
Okay.
Monday and Friday we are not open, so that's our catch-up times. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday we are open from 9:30 to 11:30 with customer service. So yes, it gets kind of crowded in there at times, but we will find a little corner to set you up and do whatever needs to be done. So basically, it's come in, we'll put you to work, we'll get everything set up, and every once in a while there might be coffee and donuts available.
Oh, well, there you go. So that's not a bad deal. Come in to help others and get a cup of coffee and some donuts as well. And Sue, you've been at this for a long time, and you've seen some of the folks that have come in to receive clothing, and children and adults. What's it like for you, as the director of Helping Hands, to see, some of those people that are receiving some, whether it be household items or clothing items?
It's wonderful. They, the appreciation that they all show for the things that they get from Helping Hands, the things that they can't buy because you can't buy them with food stamps. So it alleviates them to be able to go get other things for their house that they can buy. So it's Carolyn does a wonderful job keeping it all organized. It's just like almost better than going into a Goodwill. Everything's sorted by size, by gender, age group. So wonderful selection, and she sees 600 people a month through there. So it's it gets a little crazy on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, but it's still a blessing to watch them be able to go and find the things that they need.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note as well is that we don't sell anything.
Mm-mm.
All the clothing that are donated, we give them away, and but part of the tremendous task at hand is, when we get those donations, we have to sort them.
Right. Because
we want to make sure that they're good enough to wear, and unfortunately that's not always the case, that they're not soiled, that they don't have holes in them. Because if they are, then we have to pull those out, and that takes effort. And again, with the generosity of the community, which is such a blessing, that blessing, needs more blessings, and those blessings are people that are willing to come in to help sort those items, to get them on racks, to help people shop when they come in for clothes. So please, 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 if you want to help and volunteer, go to 419-318-7086. That's a text number, 419-318-7086. Or as Carolyn said, if you're in the neighborhood and you just want to stop by, we always will welcome you, either at the clothing center or up at the food pantry. We'll gladly help you out. So we're going to be heading to break. We're talking to Sue Shrewsbury and Carolyn Schnapp. We'll be right back.
Every day, abortion affects the lives of thousands of women. But for every woman affected, there is a man who has also lost a child. Too often, we as men don't think we can feel hurt or sadness over this loss. But there is help and there is hope. If you or someone you know has experience with abortion, please reach out to the Joseph Ministry at 419-299-6660 or visit CatholicCharitiesNWO.org for more information. God wants you to return to Him and to experience the love and mercy that is waiting you as His beloved Son.
Did you know that no Christian church accepted contraception as morally permissible before 1930? Discover why and how to work with a woman's natural times of being fertile and infertile. Learn a 99% effective method of natural family planning in English or Spanish through classes or home study. Search for a class at the Couple to Couple League's website, ccli.org, or call 800-745-8252.
Annunciation Radio would like to thank and acknowledge the law firm of Klein, Cook & Weisenberger, located on Route 20 in Perrysburg, for underwriting a portion of our programming today. The firm specializes in estate planning, with a focus on simplifying estate plans to keep costs down and avoid probate when possible. You may reach Matt Weisenberger at 419-321-6444, online at ccw-law.com. Thank you for supporting Annunciation Radio.
Courage, an apostolate of the Catholic Church, ministers to persons with same-sex attractions and their loved ones. They also have an outreach called Encourage, which ministers to relatives, spouses, and friends of persons with same-sex attractions. Endorsed by the Pontifical Council for the Family, our beloved John Paul II said of this ministry, "Courage is doing the work of God." Please visit the Courage website, couragerc.org, to learn more and find a Courage chapter near you.
Now, back to Faith Alive with Rodney Schuster, Executive Director of Catholic Charities here in the Diocese of Toledo.
Welcome back to Faith Alive. I'm Rodney Schuster, your host, and with us this week is Sue Shrewsbury and Carolyn Schnapp, and we're talking about Helping Hands of St. Louis. First of all, we reflected on some of the Christmas blessings that we had in the way of children receiving toys, our Christmas meal, our Christmas baskets. What an unbelievable Christmas season we had. And clothing, too. We received a huge number of items. But as you can imagine, and as we shared, the needs continue to increase. As Carolyn mentioned earlier, more than 200 more people are coming in on a monthly basis than we've seen in the past. I mean, the requests are increasing. I think at one point I looked, it was 60 to 70%, and that's not only at the clothing center, that's at the pantry, and as well as the number of meals. So folks, we would love to say that, well, Christmas is over and everything is fine. Unfortunately, poverty, homelessness, and all that comes along with it, some of the barriers that the folks that we serve continue to be present, and so we could use your help now more than ever. Carolyn, you were sharing about the clothing center and the need for volunteers. You also mentioned during break, when you and I were talking, that there are some items that we could really use right now. What are some of those?
Yes. Everybody was wonderful at Christmas time. We got the basics. I don't want to say we're never going to take them again, but we will always take the underwear, the socks, the hats, the gloves. But right now, it's men's coats. Men do not give up their clothing easily. So if you know of somebody that has coats that aren't being used, send them to us.
What kind of coats and what sizes?
Winter coats, all sizes, especially the extra large men's. I had one gentleman, it took us 6 months to find him a coat.
Oh, my.
And children's coats, it's the older children. We've got quite a few of the toddlers and all that, but it's the ones that are having to go to school, and if they walk to school, they need a warm coat.
And when you say older, what does that mean?
Grade school. Grade school.
Grade school, okay.
Grade school.
Okay, and that's boys and girls coats?
Boys and girls coats, both.
Okay,
yes.
Good. And if people want to learn more or perhaps even want to do a shop, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you, Carolyn?
I'm at our phone number, which is 691-0613. Extension 105 is my number. If you leave a message, I will get back to you.
One more time.
691-0613.
Okay. And then, of course, you can email her at cschnapp, that's SCHNAPP, at ToledoDiocese.org. And again, we could really use your help and support in getting those coats. Any other items that you're really seeing a lot of requests that we don't have on hand, Carolyn?
Larger men's shoes.
Okay.
Yes.
Outdoor shoes, dress shoes, all shoes.
Well, mostly I like to say that we need shoes that have good heavy soles on them, because a lot of our people are walking. They are not in cars. They need something that's going to give them a little extra protection from the ground.
Okay, so you've heard it. If you want to help, coats for especially for men and the larger sizes, winter coats. Also, coats for kids that are in grade school, and finally, men's shoes, and shoes that people can walk in, because a lot of the people we serve are on their feet quite a bit and walking quite a bit to Helping Hands to get help. So, Sue, the holidays have passed, and we just heard from Carolyn about some of the clothing needs. What are you seeing, just as we've, turned the calendar to this current year of things that you're needing in the rest of the ministry at Helping Hands?
Right. In addition to the extra people coming in, our donations are actually down because of the cost.
Mm-hmm.
Food costs more, so people aren't buying as much to donate. So, our donations were probably half what they were last year at this time. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, trying to keep up with it. So we're still in need of the canned foods. I think there's a list on our website.
Catholic Charities, NWO.
Yeah. And so I would say the biggest ones are, juice and the shelf-stable juice, canned fruit, canned meat, tuna, peanut butter, jelly.
Mm.
Those are some of our most needed items. And different kinds of vegetables besides green beans and corn. So those are nice, but it's nice to have a choice, since we do have a choice pantry.
Amen. You're listening to Faith Alive, and our guests on this segment are Sue Shrewsbury, who heads up Helping Hands, and Carolyn Schnapp, who heads up our clothing center. Sue, the buildings that we serve at, It's an old church, the Old St. Louis Parish, and old school, the St. Louis School. And with that, sometimes we could use some, manual labor, some folks that maybe are skilled in some areas of trades. What are some of the things that, gosh, if we had somebody that would volunteer to help do some of the work, any items that stand out in your mind that we could use some help with right now?
Absolutely. In the summertime, we have a problem with our pipes, our ductwork condensating in the dining room, and they drip all over the people that are trying to eat. Gosh. We need to get those wrapped. So if there's anybody that knows how to do that kind of thing, we would definitely welcome that kind of help. We're also in need of some prep tables down in the dining room. I think they're 5 foot by 30 inches, or whatever it is. Anyways, they're the stainless steel tables that you see in a restaurant.
Okay.
We need the good ones. The last time we went a little cheaper, and they're not holding up.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
If anybody has a line for those, we'll even take the used ones, just as long as they are functional and sturdy. So, grocery carts for the clothing center. They get really banged up. So we've been using like the baskets on wheels. They don't last. The little shopping carts. So if anybody has a line on some of the nicer carts, maybe like what Kohl's has, those would be great. Something that nests together because we don't have a lot of space to store it. So things like that. Some cement work. Yeah. There's some cement work that needs to be done. The list is endless.
The list is endless, and you're listening to Faith Alive, and Sue Shrewsbury and Carolyn Schnapp are with us. And, for those of you who are participating in the Living Christ Capital Campaign of the Diocese, you are probably well aware that one of the items on that capital campaign is Helping Hands of St. Louis, the expansion project. And, we're hopeful. There's a goal there to raise $3 million as part of that capital campaign, because we know that how we're operating right now is just not efficient. And, Sue and Carolyn and the team, they do an awesome job of serving so many people. I think I calculated once, Sue, anywhere to 300, maybe even up to 500 people, if you have to count the clothing center, the pantry, and meals, could on any given day could be coming in there. And then you add in 50 volunteers or on to helping each one of those ministries. I mean, it's an awesome effort, but if you came there, you would see that it's just not efficient, because for example, one side of the clothing center is where we have all our canned goods. So first of all, the canned goods come into there on pallets, and then they go from there over to the food pantry where they're served, so they have to be handled a couple times, and or if we use them down in the kitchen, and we're going to be hearing from David Smith here pretty soon, who's going to talk about, serving meals. So it's just not efficient. The folks that we're serving have to walk, first a couple, sets of stairs in order to get food and meals, and, some of our folks, it's just hard for them to do that. Right. And then, in the food pantry, it's kind of, we got a narrow aisle that people have to sit in and be served. So anyway, we just want you to know that, if you are part of this last wave of parishes and you see Helping Hands, capital project in there, please consider supporting that. Or if you want to send us a gift separate of that, we'd really appreciate it, because, we need to make some really substantial improvements to help us continue to serve those that are coming to us. So anyway, I just wanted to share that, and I know if you're in a parish that either already had a campaign, you can still provide a secondary gift to Helping Hands, and or if you're one of the parishes coming up with the last wave, keep that in mind, because we could sure use your help in the future here to improve the facilities. So, Sue, we like I mentioned, we turn the calendar. Other things that are standing out to you this year so far?
We're just trying to be able to serve everyone that comes, that we're able to. Donations, just basically donations, financial or products. Either one is we can use those, and volunteers.
Okay.
And even volunteers that, if you like to clean or you like to organize, get a hold of me.
So we need volunteers at the clothing center.
Right.
We need volunteers to help clean.
To clean, yeah.
Now, when would that be? On a daily basis?
Whatever we can work out with them. We would somebody that could come back once a week or daily would be best. But we'll try and work around your schedule. It would have to be during the day, Monday through Friday, while somebody's there.
And then what was the cleaning? Be a little bit more descriptive on
cleaning
that.
Could be, if you like to, we have bathrooms that need to be cleaned. We have floors that need to be mopped, and just all the extra cleaning, the dusting, the washing windows, things like that. So if you really like doing that kind of thing, we could certainly use your help.
We'd love to have you, and there are some schools that have kind of community service hours, and if you could designate volunteers coming in after school to help do some of these cleaning tasks, love to do that. If there's some groups out there that say, man, that's right up our alley, we could sure use your help in just getting on a regular routine basis to get our facilities cleaned up, floors mopped, bathrooms cleaned, some of those things that you'd never realize are part of the work we're doing, but man, we could sure use your help. Any other areas?
Oh, well, I'm sure the kitchen, David will talk about
the kitchen, sure, okay.
The deep clean in the kitchen. So vacuuming is another one.
Okay.
Maintenance outside, gardeners. If you like to garden, we have a garden which kind of doesn't have any workers for it right now, so I don't know if we're going to pull it up again this year or not, but we'll see what goes.
Great. And again, if you want to volunteer at Helping Hands of St. Louis, you can go to our website which is CatholicCharitiesNWO.org, and there's a volunteer tab there. Or if you want to text the volunteer, 419-318-7086. That's 318-7086. And just specify, where you'd like to volunteer. It could be Helping Hands, could be La Posada, could be, one of our offices in Mansfield, the Hope Food Pantry, or Adult Advocacy Program in Mansfield or Norwalk, or Sandusky, the Furniture Ministry. So again, 419-318-7086, or you can go to our website and you can find out either one of our phone numbers to reach us there, or you can email us at CatholicCharitiesNWO.org. So, Carolyn, any final thoughts here? We got a little less than a minute to wrap up about the clothing center.
I'm just overwhelmed by all the things that I've seen in the last year and a half since I've been there. I've seen miracles every day. Every day.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, again, Carolyn could use some help. First of all, some clothes for men, coats for winter coats, shoes for men. And we're going to head to break. We're going to continue our discussion on Helping Hands of St. Louis. We'll be right back.
Greetings in Christ Jesus, everyone. This is Bishop Daniel Thomas. As we continue our Living Christ Diocesan Capital Campaign, I know that many of you have already stepped forward with a generous investment in the future of our local church. Thank you for your generosity. Many more will be asked for your participation in the coming months as we move toward our overall goal of $65 million. Folks, already our pilot wave of parishes and our first wave of parishes have now, with only 33 parishes, reached 45% of our overall goal. Now we enter Wave 2 with 45 parishes, and next spring, Wave 3 with the same number of parishes. This diocesan-wide initiative provides opportunities to support important endowment, programmatic, and capital needs to preach the gospel and witness to Christ Jesus throughout our 122 parishes and pastoral ministries. These areas, folks, include strengthening our parishes, because the parish gets 35% of every dollar, supporting our clergy, increasing Catholic charity services, building upon and maintaining the excellence of our Catholic schools, restoring our mother church, and forming lay leaders with education and training for service to the faithful. Friends, this Living Christ campaign is seeing tremendous support, and I thank you if you've already made a pledge or a gift, And I invite you, if you've not yet done so, to do so when your parish goes into the wave for our diocesan capital campaign, so that all of us may be caught up in living Christ throughout the Diocese of Toledo, because together we will maintain the vitality of our local church for this generation and beyond. God bless you and thank you.
Now, back to Faith Alive with Rodney Schuster, Executive Director of Catholic Charities here in the Diocese of Toledo.
Welcome back to Faith Alive. I'm your host, Rodney Schuster, Executive Director for Catholic Charities in the Diocese of Toledo. And we've been talking to Sue Shrewsbury and Carolyn Schnapp about Helping Hands of St. Louis and the Clothing Center. But we have another guest that's joining us this half hour, David Smith, who's our chef, if you will, for Helping Hands of St. Louis. So he's responsible for making sure that we have some great hot meals. David, welcome to Faith Alive.
Thanks. Great to be here.
So share a little bit about, your experiences, Christmas season, perhaps, what goes on a daily, the life and the day of David Smith and
right.
some of the meals that we're serving at Helping Hands.
Right. Yeah. You said chef. That's one of the hats.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of hats you wear serving the people like that. I mean, Christmas was a lot of fun. It was busy as usual. I mean, I really like the environment over there when we're in Thanksgiving and Christmas season, because everyone seems to be a little more jolly, a little more happy. There's a lot more camaraderie. There's a lot more helping each other out. It just seems like everyone seems to get the vibe of Christmas over there pretty good, and it's always a pleasant experience.
Do you run out of volunteers during Christmas?
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I feel like I run out of volunteers during Christmas. It gets so hectic sometimes, but I've got great groups, and they're all plugged into what we were trying to achieve down there, and it's always a pleasure working with them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Sue, I know we talked at break a little bit about a story that you wanted to share regarding Christmas and some of the things that were going on at Helping Hands.
Yeah, we at our Christmas party, we had a young man he came in and he was probably about 9 years old, and he was autistic, so he was operating at about a 6-year-old level. But he came in, and they were coming up to go get their coats, and he looked over and saw Santa. And that's what he wanted. He kept saying, "It's Santa, it's Santa, it's Santa." And he got so excited and just kept repeating, "It's Santa, it's Santa." So he was so excited, he went and got his picture with Santa. But in the meantime, I had asked him, what did you tell Santa what you want for Christmas? And he said he wanted Paw Patrol. So I had remembered the day before, I had a mom and her 2 kids came in, and they had some extra gifts. And when we were going out there, get him out of her car, she said, "Well, my son wants to tell you something." He says, I just hope that these presents or these toys make somebody happy for Christmas." So one of those things was a Paw Patrol track. Great. So with little cars on it. So I remembered that, and we had already packed all the bags, so it was an extra. So I went and I grabbed it, and I found his bag and stuck it in there. Now, I didn't get to see him open him on Christmas, but I'm really hoping that he enjoyed that, and we were happy to be able to, fine-tune something like that for him, just through the donations that were given.
You're listening to Faith Alive, and our guests are Sue Shrewsbury and David Smith from Helping Hands of St. Louis. And really, I mean, that is every day we are just doing God's work, and every day someone's life is touched in ways we may never see it. David, you came from the restaurant business, and which was for profit, and now you're working at Helping Hands of St. Louis, doing ministerial work. What are some of the stories that you've seen, or lives that you've seen that have been touched in a special way since you've been at Helping Hands?
It's like a daily thing. There's always something to inspire. I couldn't be happier, by the way, coming from the restaurant industry to this industry. I feel like I'm doing something positive for humanity every day, which is always a plus.
Amen.
But there's a lot of my regulars who come in daily. Over time, you grow relationships with these people, and it's great to see when they can achieve something for themselves, even based on something maybe you didn't help them with, but maybe they asked you for your advice, you gave them a little advice, they went and did it, and then they come back and tell you about the positive impact you've had. That's the kind of thing that really strikes a chord with me. is when, you know, they come in and they share with us as if we're part of their family. And I feel that we pretty much are part of their families. And they rely on us to, you know, basically they rely on us to have the sort of relationships that maybe they are lacking in their home life. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they come in, we'll see them, they'll be playing cards in the morning, and, you know, just basically just, it reminds me a lot of what it was like growing up in my family with a lot of these people. And, you know, over the about 2 years that I've been with Catholic Charities, I've really grown to love a lot of these people. And, you know, it's always a good thing when you wake up every morning and you're not doing what I used to call the pre-work blech. Mm-hmm. You know, you wake up and you're like, ugh, I don't want to go to work. Well, that's very rare, if ever, in this current job, because the people there make the day worthwhile.
Yeah, and one of the things that for anyone who's not been to Helping Hands, and I would encourage you to come down and visit us, we'd love to show you around, but it's just the family environment. And I think, as you mentioned, David and Sue, you being there, you know, for a number of years, we know who usually, for the most part, is coming in the doors. Mm-hmm. And we know their story. We know the background of their family and their challenges and, you know, some of the tragedies. And I just always get so impressed at you know, it is like coming into a family. You know, it's like, hey, you know, how was your weekend? And, mm-hmm. you know, how are you doing? How are you feeling better? You know, sorry to hear about a loss. And it's just amazing to me, because that really is Christ at work, mm-hmm. to have a welcoming environment, to have an environment where we care and we want to know their name, and we learn their name, and we learn their story and their situation. You know, gosh, I think it's something that we can never, you know, shortchange, because sometimes it's really the only real, genuine love and care that the folks receive when they come to us. So
it's true.
Yeah,
right.
It's beautiful. So, David, you know, we're in the new year. You know, things are I don't want to say back to normal, because there really is no normal, as close as they can be. But what are you seeing in the way of help that you could use, either through volunteers or specific food items? Anything that's jumping out that we want to make sure people are aware of?
Touching on what Sue mentioned earlier, we could use, as far as cleaning goes, we could use a crew that comes in and kind of tightens up or buttons up loose ends, tightens up things that maybe got missed. We, you know, like as you mentioned, we serve a lot of people every day, yeah. And it's a lot of work to keep that place spick and span and, you know, tip top condition. So any extra hands for that would be great. There's also the whole, like you were mentioning, the fact that we are functioning in a building that isn't exactly optimal. There's a lot of stairs to traverse. There's a lot of nooks and crannies. It's not laid out as ergonomically as maybe it could be.
Sure.
But that's just, you know, we got to deal with it until we can get into some, you know, maybe either a bigger place or can figure out a way to improve the situation we already have. But all those things are controllable if we have enough hands helping us out, yeah. You know. And you know, as Sue was mentioning earlier, it's not just people to clean. We also could use muscles. You know, none of us have very strong backs, yeah. Yeah. And there are, you know, tonnage of donations coming in, even though it's less than it was previously. Yeah. We're still getting a good amount of stuff in occasionally, and that stuff it's heavy. Yeah, right. So, you know, and it has to go down several steps and then back up a set of steps to get it stored. So, you know, any young strapping people that you know, want to help out with their muscles are also more than welcome down there.
We will give you a workout. We won't even charge you for it.
There you go.
Yeah, we're way cheaper than Planet Fitness.
With all the New Year's resolutions, you say, I want to get in shape. Well, we can get you in shape at Helping Hands of St. Louis. You listen to Faith Alive, and our guests are Sue Shrewsbury, who heads up Helping Hands, and David Smith, who's our our chef and heads up all the daily meals that are served at Helping Hands. David, any specific food items right now you're a little short on?
Well, I could always use protein. I could always use meat. We get certain types of meat in regularly, but we fly through it. We serve a lot of meals every day. So, like we can go anywhere from, on a slow day, we're serving 150, 160. On a busy day, we're serving well over 300.
Yeah.
And the food flies out, So I'd say that the things we need most often, and she mentioned this earlier, green beans and corn are always a staple. They're always going to be used. Canned carrots help. Canned peas, that kind of thing. But mainly protein.
What kind of proteins?
I could use any sort of ground beef, any sort of... I use a lot... Well, the people down there really like the GFS meatballs.
Okay.
So I use a lot of those in different capacities. I can make 20 different
Or
things.
if we have some really energetic listeners out there that want to make meatballs.
Yes,
how
please.
How many meatballs? So let's say regular size meatballs, not the giant ones.
No, about a half ounce.
How many meatballs could you use in a lunch? So you mentioned that you could have over 300 meals. So how many meatballs is that? Either in pounds or number?
Well, as far as poundage goes, an average meal of about 200 to 225 is going to go through 2 cases of meatballs, which is 40 pounds of meatballs.
40 pounds of meatballs.
So,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. So you can imagine if we're serving that many meals, so 40 pounds doesn't last very long.
No,
it's one
quick.
day.
It's quick.
So,
or if you want to do the count, you do 3 to 5 meatballs per plate times 300.
There you go.
Exactly,
That's 1,500 meatballs.
We go through a lot.
And if you have questions, you can call us. And the best number to learn more about the needs as far as meat, what would be the best number, Sue?
419-691-0613. You can press 0 to reach the next available staff, or the office. My office is 101. I'm not sure. I think Gabriel's is 106.
Okay, so just you find an extension and we'll definitely connect with you. Other proteins that you could use, David.
I could always use chicken. I can always use
chicken breast, chicken thighs.
Any. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Any chicken. I can turn it into something.
Okay.
Sausages are also very helpful.
Okay.
Like we had one of the St. Catherine's volunteer group went out and bought us a bunch of Stanley's kielbasa for Christmas dinner, and that went over like gangbusters. Yeah. I mean, it's nice to be able to change it up a little bit and give them something different every couple days to keep it fresh, and stuff like that. It helps for that. You can get any kind of sausage, summer sausage even we could use, but. Yeah, I mean, I like to make sure that they're varietal, of a variety of different types of meats, different types of vegetables, different types of sides, so as to not bore them.
Yeah.
I will say, March 17th is coming up, so
we could always use
Jig's dinner, so we could use some donation of some corned beef.
Corned beef,
yes.
And what else?
We could always use corned beef. Last year, I couldn't get any corned beef, so I made shepherd's pie.
Oh, okay.
Which is still Irish, but
so. How many pounds of corned beef?
Holy cow. I would
Remember,
say,
we've got a generous audience, so don't undersell.
Yeah, I would say probably, if we're doing a big Jigs dinner, I could use 100 pounds of corned beef.
100 pounds of corned beef. So you've heard it.
I can
folks.
taste it already.
Oh, me too. So please, if you're interested, please give us a call at
419-691-0613.
And you can ask for Sue, you can ask for Gabriel, you can ask for David, and they'll be specific on when they can. And if you are so energetic, you'd like to make a Jigs dinner for us and bring it down, we can definitely do that as well.
That's an option,
I won't complain.
Nobody will complain, and our volunteers won't complain either. Hey, we're going to head to break. You're listening to Help Faith Alive and Helping Hands of St. Louis. Sue and David are our guests. We'll be right back.
My brothers and sisters in the Lord, my name is Peter Range, and I am the new Executive Director of Ohio Right to Life and host of Say Yes to Life on Annunciation Radio. I want to encourage you that your life has purpose and meaning and value beyond what you can ask or imagine. Trust that from the very moment of conception, God has destined you for eternal life with Him. So please stand with me and defend and protect the preborn and every human life from conception to natural death.
Father Mateo once said, "Make your home another Bethany." Our homes are meant to be holy. Where life is lived, so does our faith need to be lived out as well. When we take time to develop a devotion to His heart, we can experience new graces for daily living, even when life is difficult. The Sacred Heart Enthronement is a powerful way to experience Christ's love. Visit welcomehisheart.com to learn more about the Sacred Heart Enthronement.
Often, when confronted with the apostles' claim that Jesus rose from the dead, people ask if they made it up, and it's a reasonable question. So, did they? I don't think so, and here are a few reasons why. First, the early Christians had nothing to gain and everything to lose in lying about Jesus' resurrection, which makes their testimony credible. As Paul argues in 1 Corinthians 15, the only outcome for him lying is persecution and death. How does that serve as motivation for a lie? Second, the gospel writers include women as the first witnesses. This is a big no-no if you're trying to fabricate a story in first century Judaism. According to the first century Jewish historian Josephus, the testimony of women wasn't considered reliable at the time. So, there's one thing we can be certain of. The apostles weren't lying about Jesus' resurrection. I'm Carlo Broussard with a ready reason for Catholic Answers. Catholic.com.
Now, back to Faith Alive with Rodney Schuster, Executive Director of Catholic Charities here in the Diocese of Toledo.
Welcome back to Faith Alive. I'm your host, Rodney Schuster, Executive Director for Catholic Charities in the Diocese of Toledo. On today's program, we've been talking to the great servants at Helping Hands of St. Louis. Sue Shrewsbury is the director there. We had Carolyn Schnapp on talk about the Clothing Center, and we also have joining us right now David Smith, who's responsible for putting the menus together, so we call him Chef David, and getting all the food groups to get meals served. David, during the break, you talked about where there's a couple other items that we could use, and I think, was it coffee, did you mention?
Yeah, there's a lot of items that we could use daily that I completely just glazed over because it's the stuff we use so much of. Yeah, coffee. Best way to get us coffee would be in bulk. So you can either get it at Costco or Gordon Food Service. They generally have big cases of coffee, and we generally will take just about anything, but classic roast would probably be the best option. Okay. We can always use the big 50-pound bags of sugar. We can always use we fly through sugar. They love sugar. Okay. So we can always use that kind of stuff. We can always use the powdered creamer. Okay. Those kind of things are the kind of things that we kind of don't think about and take for granted until we have to buy a tonnage of them. Yeah. Well, that donations of that stuff would be fantastic. Great. Even specifically speaking of Gordon Food Service, the packets of Kool-Aid, the big where you can make a giant cooler's worth of Kool-Aid. Okay. We fly through that stuff too, so we could definitely use some of that if people are feeling generous out there.
All right, awesome. And David, I have to ask you too. So you came on board. We were kind of in COVID and getting off of COVID, and so the number of meals we were serving, weren't to the pre-COVID numbers, but we've since seen in the last, let's say, 6 months, a tremendous increase.
Way more.
Talk to me about that and what's it meant for you and for all your volunteer teams that come in.
Well, it feels great. It's sort of a double-edged sword in that if our society was functioning the way it should function, we wouldn't need to help anybody. Yeah. But the fact that we're here helping all these people every day also, at the same time, on the flip side of the coin, is equally just as important. So when we started, we were doing sort of the through the window to go bags kind of thing. Yes. We were serving about 60 to 80 people a day, which, the people in the neighborhood were very thankful that we were serving. As everything has sort of slowly started coming back, the numbers were slowly going up. But as you were saying, in the last 6 months, I'd say 6 to 8 months, it has just exploded. Yeah. I mean, we're over 300 a lot. Wow. And I'd noticed that going back on the previous numbers, it had been several years since we were up in the high 200s, low 300s. It had been a while. So in order to execute that sort of thing, I rely upon my volunteer groups, and I am a lucky chef in that my volunteer groups are all go-getters. They're all rearing to go. They all have the best attitudes, and they're all there for the right reasons. And I love them like my family. Yeah. All 28 groups, they're all great. But yeah, with the explosion of numbers, I kind of lean on them a little more, and I think they're up for the task. So
yeah, and Sue, I'm wondering. I mean, you've been with Helping Hands for a long time, are you seeing a lot of new faces, or a lot of faces that we hadn't seen for a while coming back? A
little bit of both. We are seeing a lot of faces that were gone during COVID. I think they were just afraid to come out, so they've started coming back. But a lot of new faces. People that have moved into the area, or maybe heard about us through friends or whatever. I've heard we serve the best food in Northwest Ohio.
Amen.
So
I thankfully
thank you, David.
I thankfully have heard that a couple times too.
Yeah, so they are very appreciative of the tasty meals that are being served. So it's gotten busy. It has gotten busy.
Yeah. I know this is sometimes so difficult to plan for. Yeah. David, maybe share how you try to plan now. And again, this is in light of donations come in, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, well, we got to serve this. So how do you account for that? How do you plan for that?
Well, when I first started, meal planning was more along the lines of how I did it in restaurants, where I would plan something out for the week or 2 weeks in advance. And that just ended real fast. Every day is chopped. If you've ever seen Chopped on the Food Network, every day is chopped. Mm-hmm. I don't know what came in the night before when I was gone. Yeah. I have to take an assessment when I get there in the morning. Something maybe came in that was cooked already, so I probably should use that before I get to the thing that's still packaged. So I will assess the situation. Sometimes if I'm lucky, I can plan ahead a couple days based on what I have. But that's the fun in it. If you ask me, that's what keeps it interesting and fresh, and it also keeps me on my toes as far as coming up with recipes on the fly. If I get a bunch of stuff that is only a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, what of those things could be combined to make one thing? And on top of that, what sort of, auxiliary pieces do I have to add to it that maybe I might have to buy in order to make it happen? So to me, it's simultaneously one of the most challenging jobs I've had as far as food service goes, but at the same time, completely way more rewarding than any job I've ever had in the restaurant industry, because I get to be creative. I get to have fun. I get to plus I get to see the shine and the brightness in their eyes when they see something they really like that I made.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Every time I make chili, it's over with. They go crazy for chili. Yeah,
you listen to Faith Alive, and our guests are David Smith, who heads up our meals program at Helping Hands of St. Louis, and Sue Shrewsbury, who's a director of Helping Hands. So isn't that amazing? Chili is something that, Now, I have to ask you, though, do you think at some point they would get sick of having chili if you had it like every day?
If I had it every day, yeah. But that's when you do the chicken chili.
Just change it up.
Guys, it's different. It's different. You have to tell us what you think. Oh, that's awesome. So, Sue, in your experience there, I mean, you've had some amazing donations show up in the way of food, and of course, we always talk about the annual walleye run, and one year where we actually had to clean the fish, right, and find some volunteers, but we're thankful this past year that they did that. But so when you get calls from people that are saying, "Hey, I've got this," it could be a truckload of pizzas, it could be walleye, it could be milk. I mean, for you, is it like, okay, so what is today going to bring in the way of surprises?
Right. Well, the first thing I do is I think, okay, where can we put this until we're able to use it? And if it's more than I can use, okay, who can I share this with? Right. So I don't want to turn anybody down. I will go pick it up if I can. It's great. At one time, we got a load of White Castle burgers, which served like 6 meals. It was great. They loved it. So, it just all depends what we're going to get. But I try to pick it up if I can, because that helps our cost. It helps us and able to do other things with the money that we have. So.
Yeah, I also like how lately KFC has been donating to us every week too.
Right.
So when we do KFC Day,
that's
they
Kentucky
love
Fried
the
Chicken.
KFC. Yeah,
wow. Now is that new, David? That
last few months, it's end of the summer they started doing it really.
Yeah.
And how did they hear about that we could maybe use some help?
They do that through, it's a food, it's a program. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but they work with area nonprofits and the restaurants to utilize them donations that are at the end of the day instead of throwing them away all the time.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So they freeze whatever chicken is in buns and or biscuits and stuff at the end of the day. We go pick it up once a week and bring it back, and when it gets enough to serve a meal,
throw it in the oven.
And
Call it a day. And generally, I'll make it very similar to the way they do it at the restaurant too, to make it seem as though it's at least as close to getting it from Kentucky Fried Chicken as you can get.
Right.
I'll make the corn, make the mashed potatoes, do the whole what their method.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You're listening to Faith Alive, and we're talking to Sue Shrewsbury and David Smith regarding Helping Hands of St. Louis. We have about a minute left, so we want to make sure if people want to help us, we need proteins, which could be ground beef, it could be chicken breast, chicken thighs, drumsticks.
Whatever you got
protein-wise. And, of course, Sue, you can always use help when we're looking at volunteer groups to do cleaning, especially, and then able-bodied volunteers to help get donations in. And if you come down there, you'll see where it's not really efficient to get donations in, but we can use help. So, once again, how can they learn more?
They can call the office at 419-691-0613. Press 0 to reach the next available staff person, or they can reach my number at 101. If I'm not there, please leave a message. We'll try to get back to you as soon as we can. And then there's the text to volunteer number, which is
318-7086. Sue, David, thank you so very much. And Carolyn, before you, appreciate all you do for Helping Hands of St. Louis and those who come to us. Blessings to you, and thanks so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Until next week, you're listening to Faith Alive. Take care and God bless.
You've been listening to Faith Alive with Rodney Schuster. For more information about Catholic Charities programs and services, visit CatholicCharitiesNWO.org. You can listen to this and other episodes anytime on demand on the Annunciation Radio mobile app and at AnnunciationRadio.com.